What's up, Montrose? Welcome back to MoTown Knows. I'm Josue Perez, local reporter here at the Montrose Daily Press. I spoke with you all when I spoke with a couple of local Montrose football players for our first episode. So I'm back here with episode 5, and today we're going to be talking about housing. It's part 1 of a 3-part series that we have planned, and I'm joined by Jeff Keehfuss. He's a broker owner of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, which has offices in Montrose, Grand Junction, Durango, and Telluride. And before we get started, if anyone has any comments on Neighbor, you can go to neighbor.montrosepress.com, share your thoughts there, and you can do that after the live stream as well. And also shout out to Delta Montrose Electric Association for their help with this, helping make this possible. So huge thanks to them. We're really appreciative of them helping us do this MoTown Knows conversation series. So Jeff, it's great to have you on. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I always, that's what I talk about, real estate. That's my life. So it seems like that's a hot topic anymore.
And we've had some conversations already, you and I, a couple of times for stories that I've done here in the Montrose community. And we've talked about how volatile the housing market's been here in Montrose and even just the region itself. But over the last few months, what are some takeaways that you've had with everything that's going on in housing? Just a couple things that might have stood out to you so far.
Well, there's so much to talk about, and there's so many different, and there's all of these markets are all independent. Durango obviously is much different than Telluride, which is much different than Grand Junction. So, but at the same point, like everyone knows, I mean, the market really has been it's just been crazy, and it's the $1 million question really for me is kind of where does it go from here, and everybody is searching for those answers, wanting to know where it's going from here, and it's really a mixed bag right now. There's a lot of indicators that I have access to that I have to study as part of my job, but to kind of try to get some feel of where the market's going. And what's interesting right now is there's so many things that you can kind of go. There's a lot of different directions you can go. If you just look at the stats, which obviously are all in arrears, and things that have happened previously, sort of like an appraisal on a house that they use sold comps. A lot of indicators would show you that it's just gone through the roof and it's going to continue. But I would like to believe that there's a lot to this. And don't get me wrong, I'm certainly not trying to be negative or that the sky's falling, but I told you this previously, and I think we're just starting to finally hit this paradigm now where I believe that we're going to start plateauing a bit locally, at least, although not much. And a lot of people are in a real favorable market position in their home. And so even if the market did have a downturn, people, I think, would be in good shape. The local lenders I've had discussions with them, and they feel that people are in, they haven't allowed people to get HELOCs and a lot of seconds on their home to where that they would be anywhere near a position that we had, back in the downturn 10 years ago. But it's just, I don't know where it's going to go. You have people coming in from out of town to us locally that have lived here, and we've seen this market before. It appears to us that the market's gotten a little out of control and that the prices are going through the roof. But it's interesting because the people that are coming here are like, no, you don't realize maybe for an example, they lived in a 1,100 square foot house in California and sold it for $800,000, and they moved here, and what they can buy for $800,000 they feel is a bargain. So it's all in perspective and keeping it understanding this market for them, it seems to be a bargain and a great place to live. So
what gives you the impression that this market might start plateauing? I know a lot of people are starting to come over here, from bigger cities to kind of be a little bit more remote. They're starting to realize, hey, remote work's probably something that works a little bit better for me, and I can do that in a more, rural area. What gives you the impression that we might plateau here soon here in Montrose?
Well, there's so many things that it's really hard to pinpoint any one. So let me as quickly as I possibly can. Let me give you a couple indicators that are things that I see, that the general public might not see, because I have access to current showings on homes in different price ranges. Then you talk to local lenders, local title companies, and the over agents, talking to other agents and agents in all my offices, and you just get a sense right now that it's not just the seasonal downturn right now, that it's actually you can feel it. You can feel things soften a bit and slow a bit compared to what they were even over a year ago. And when you look at the statistics, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I could send you or that I would have available that are interesting, because even though you might show where this trend has gone up, you'll see a little hook at the end. So it's like it's almost like it's starting to go in a different direction or trend in a different direction. So for an example would be days on market. We all know that things hit the market. There's multiple offers, which we've never had here before. This is just a market we've never seen before. But now you might still get a few offers, but you don't get 6 or 8 or 10 or 15, which was just a complete zoo and difficult for everybody involved. So certainly was good for sellers. Sellers were enjoying that market, but things like days on market, things as far as distressed inventory, and you see some of those things starting to kind of creep in a different direction. What's interesting though is if you take the trend lines and you look at them, you'll see where we're starting to get a few. We'll get more inventory on the market. And again, this is kind of a broad spectrum of the Western Slope, but because some areas are different. But when you seem to start getting more some more inventory come on the market, they gobble them up, and so that the price has just gotten from a few years ago we were in the 230s for a median price of a home in Montrose, and now we're pushing the 400,000 numbers. So add that to the list of things that make me a little nervous about where the market's going to go. Is that average household income for Montrose County, I think over the last 3 years, don't totally quote me, but I'm pretty sure this is accurate, that for the last 3 years has actually gone down for a household income of now it's right around 50,000. I think it was close to 52. But when you do the math, if you have little or no money to put down on a home and you're talking a median income of 400,000, it's just an affordability problem that we have right now. And I don't know how that's going to all pan out, because if you're a working class person in Montrose, maybe you're more blue collar, maybe you're in construction industry, and you used to be able to buy a home, cute little 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot home with a 2-car garage for 200,000. Then now if we say, okay, well, you can still live in Montrose, but now you need to live in multifamily or some other type of housing, I'm just afraid that are those people going to want to stay here, or can they even afford to stay here? So those are the things that just make me nervous about wondering where this market's going to go. I just think that at some point this thing, it would appear to me, common sense tells me it has to start tapering off. But as you can see, I mean, so far it really kind of hasn't until just the last few months.
A lot of that has to do too with the multiple offers deal on a single home. You just mentioned that's something that hasn't been seen a lot here in Montrose. And a lot of it, from what I've seen and heard about, and just from, talking with realtors and people who are looking for homes, is you could have 5 offers on a home, but only one person's going to, finalize and close on that. So that leaves 4 families/couples who are, without a home and they're still looking. How prevalent has that been for the past year or so, since the pandemic started, or even a little bit before that? How much of a rate are we seeing that right now?
Well, and again, there's so many variables and all that, and it's really difficult because real estate transaction for a buyer and a seller is a lot of times it's the biggest investment they're going to make in their life. But at the same time, it's really difficult when you're working with maybe you're looking for someone who's relocating to Montrose and they really do need a place to live. and they're competing against cash offers of investors that are looking for those, maybe for an example, as rental properties. And buyer love letters, which are now pretty much obsolete because of fair housing issues that were coming up. People were, submitting a buyer love letter of, if you'll take my offer, we just will love your house, and me and my 3 kids, and maybe the seller isn't doesn't like kids, or so they were one of the protective classes were being harmed, and so now basically you submit an offer, and it's the merit of the offer of who gets what gets accepted. And in my case, we come up, we have a multiple offer worksheet that we'll come up with, and we'll put all the details of the highlights of the offer and submit that to the seller, and they'll make a decision based on which offer looks to be the best, and then there's a lot of factors that go into that, on because a lot of times I got to tell you that the number of cash offers that actually don't close is pretty high, because things were getting so difficult. Cash offers were coming in and they wouldn't even see the property. So a seller might decide to take a cash offer over a financed offer, when in fact, then the buyer comes to town, they look at the property, and then they just terminate and go on to the next one. So, I always use the likelihood to close factor, if you will. I would tell the seller, look, the terms of this offer are extremely good, whereas maybe the price on another one might be higher, but there's some things that go with it. But anyway, there's really, I don't have a way to answer that question other than to tell you that everybody is in the same boat, where they're looking for a home, and we actually in our office have had, to my knowledge, we may have had a higher, but even on a $500,000 house, I've seen $100,000 over asking price, with appraisal gap provisions in the contract, that there would be no appraisal, or that the buyer was willing to pay the difference just to get the house. So how do you compete with that? It's really difficult, really tough for the buyer.
How does that compare to, all the work that your office has put in just before this massive trend that we're seeing? I mean, how often would you see that beforehand?
Oh, almost never. There's kind of a standing joke in the real estate industry that, or at least locally, that we always say you either have no offers or you have 2. And, it always gets more difficult with 2. It's good for the seller, because then a lot of times, they may get competing offers from a buyer, and they can try to, get maybe a better deal on their house. Although in some cases, as the market turns, like I think it will, sometimes if a buyer knows they're in a competing offer, they may decide that they don't want to play that game, and they'll opt out. So I've seen people lose both buyers by trying to play one buyer against the other. So, ethically, if we have an offer, we have to present it. But a lot of people think that, we're trying to, maybe a realtor's trying to get the offer up for the seller, so they're telling all these other agents that they have other offers, and it just doesn't happen in my offices anyway. I mean, if we have an offer, then we'll go to if the seller gives permission, we'll go to the other brokers and let them know that there is another offer, competing offer, and if they want to adjust their offer, they can. And it's up to the seller to decide how they want to do that. But to answer your question, we literally we haven't seen multiple offers like this in Montrose County anyway for since I've been in the business, which is 15 years.
And with supply and demand where it's at, how often are you seeing cash offers right now? Is it more so than before, or the same, or is it just kind of falling with what the market's doing, and just elevating to massive levels?
Again, this is market specific. Like in Telluride, I just had was privy to some information today in Telluride of obviously a lot of cash offers up there, because a lot of those people up there was second homes and resort community. And so, but in Montrose, I hate to use this as an example, because every deal is different, but say in the $300,000 to $500,000 price range, if you got 6 offers, you might have 3 or 4 that are financed and a couple that are cash. But again, like you said, if you have a cash offer, sellers looking at those, it's real difficult because a lot of times the cash offer, if they take a lot of the contingencies out of the contract, the seller really kind of is in a position where why would they not? Because then you get contingency of another home selling, or sometimes domino effect of several homes selling. And so as a seller, when you want to move and you want to sell, you just really can't take that chance. So but even that's another example. Multiple offers, the number of showings on homes, the number of showings on homes before contract, all those statistics that we have access to, those are all trending in the direction of at least to start slowing down or leveling off a bit. I'm not saying it's going down, but title companies, I've talked to them lately, and they were suggesting that if we had contracts, they were asking if we could please give them some time to get title work done. And now they're kind of back to more normal again, and it's busy, but they're not out of control like they were. Same with lenders. So you may talk to an individual agent that's like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. Well, that's a horrible indicator of the market, which is unfortunate that people might. I know we get asked that question a lot, but one agent or even one office being busy means nothing. It's kind of not. You kind of have to look at the whole big picture.
I want to switch over to just the pricing of the median sales price that Montrose County has seen, and a big topic around here just for locals and out-of-state buyers is the prospect of affordable housing. A rate of pricing where a family or a couple can find a home that works for them, it's suitable for them, but from everything you've seen, the trends that you're envisioning, and everything you've kind of discussed today, when could you see a potential path for affordable housing here in Montrose, or just for it to trend in that direction where it could level off for some locals and out-of-state buyers who want to move to Montrose and settle here?
Well, that's a great question, and unfortunately, I'll give you what I would consider more of a straight answer, which would be extremely debatable, and some people may not be that happy about the way that I would present the answer. But I personally, and I know you and I didn't talk about this, so you didn't know this, but I've been working on an affordable housing project with Habitat for Humanity we've been working on and off for it almost 2 years, and we were extremely excited about the prospect. And it was 46 acres that I have that's annexed into the city, and I was going to donate it to them to be able. And anyway, it was really exciting. There was a lot of people involved in stuff, but we were there were some of the major players have decided to back out and think that maybe we could find a more suitable location or a better location. But that in itself is the $1 million question, because I can tell you behind the scenes that there's a lot of people that tout, oh, we're going to do affordable housing, or we want affordable housing, until we tell them that, oh, by the way, that could be that we buy some properties in your housing development, or we put the affordable housing near you, and then all of a sudden it becomes not a popular subject anymore, or it gets deterred, or it gets changed, and so affordable housing is extremely difficult topic. And like I say, I thought that I was so excited that we were going to have an answer to it, of possibility of maybe 100+ houses that would be kind of a sweat equity like Habitat does, and some answers to some of that. But I'll just be straight, and I'll just tell you, as far as in my opinion, unless there's something like, say, Telluride, where you put in some deed restricted areas with some affordable housing, and something like that comes up quicker than later, I don't see anything in the near future other than maybe something like some multifamily apartments are getting ready to try to build, and some of that. But I don't see it coming up in the near future. And then what's the definition of affordable? When you're talking median price of $400,000, what's affordable? So I really hate to give that answer, and there needs to be some momentum, and some people need to get involved, but it's a touchy one.
And a great discussion point you and I have had before is just the ripple effects that could have on a community, and specifically in Montrose. If you have people putting in offers in homes and they're not securing anything, maybe they move somewhere else, and Montrose, potentially people that could join the labor force or contribute in some way in the economy here. So I just wanted you to get your thoughts on the types of ripple effects that are seen in a community when housing is where it is now, and just the impacts that has on a community that wants to grow. Obviously, like here in Montrose, it's growing in different ways. But those ripple effects, and what are your thoughts on those, and how can it impact Montrose, and even places like Telluride and Uray, who often ha- count on Montrose to help them out in a way.
Well, I mean, it's another great question, but like you and I've discussed that at some point in time, if someone wants to come to work and or live in Montrose, and if they can't afford a place, where are they going to go? So you have a lot of the people that are moving here that are more retiree types that need more service related. So they need people to come and clean windows and clean their house and their cars and do all those kind of services for them. But we need a place for those people to live. And so that's another huge concern, along with affordable housing, is we still need to have that base, and we don't have a college here like Grand Junction or in Durango where you can at least pull from some of those people to be able to get some of the labor force. We have what we have here, and I know that some of the latest economy reports in Montrose show that unemployment in Montrose is down. I think it was in the 5% range and stuff. So that appears to be doing okay. But as well as I do, how many times you drive up to somewhere and the place is closed because of short staff or no staff, and so I know that's more also a nationwide problem, but that's just another problem I don't have the answer to. But it's something that needs to be addressed in this area because we're kind of busting at the seams.
With homes being sold, the way they are at these prices, who do you see are like who's securing these homes, and who are the people that are being affected by the market and where it's at? I mean, what are you seeing on your end with your agency?
Well, again, that really is a lot of the people that are, I think, the more of the retirees or the people that were, in the metro areas that just decided that they wanted out, or in Telluride, there's been people that those were second homes. They decided to sell the home they were at, and then they go live in the second home or vacation home in Telluride. But you're seeing, these people come here, and the markets are still good enough in these other areas across the country for now, and they're able to get enough money when they come here that they can buy a house here for a lot less and still have some money to put in the bank, but again, it just makes it difficult because all of that is what's driving the prices up, and it's not their fault. I mean, we all live here. We can't close the door behind us, which a lot of people want to do. We live here, and so other people want to live here too. But it's like a good fishing hole. And once it's been found, which we sort of have been there a few times in Montrose, then I think it's like I don't know when it's going to turn. But as far as building goes, though, you only have so many builders in Montrose, and they can only build so many houses. You're not going to get like a Del Webb type company come to Montrose and build 1,000 houses because they're plenty busy building houses where they're at. So, there's several developments right now that are either started or in the works. There's an extension to the trailer court out on LaSalle, which I guess you could consider affordable housing, although you're talking about space rent at $400 to $500 a month just for space rent. So is that affordable? I don't know. I don't know what the definition of affordable is. Maybe we call it the most affordable as a county or something. What's the most affordable house that we have or housing? But anyway, I just, again, it's just all of those are the factors of, low supply and high demand of why the prices are doing what they're doing.
With that in mind, and 2020, 2021 nearing its end, and of course, it's always hard to forecast and predict this stuff. It's so volatile at times. How's, in your opinion, 2022 shaping up here in terms of the housing market?
Well, again, no one has a crystal ball, but I'd like to believe that since we do this every day, we have a pretty good pulse on what's going on. And I can tell you that um, my feeling for 2022 is that we're going to get more inventory. More people are gonna decide to sell. The $1 million question will be, how many buyers will we have, and are they still going to stay in the buyer pool when interest rates start to climb? If they continue to like they do, what happens with inflation? What happens with I mean, I've heard gas prices of what they could possibly do. So inflation in general could influence a lot of that. So not getting onto all the national factors. I personally think in 2022 we're going to have a busy year, but hopefully for the housing market we get more manageable, if you will, just like growth. Managed growth is fine, but this busting at the seams and is really it's really burned a lot of people out. It doesn't matter if I talk to lenders, electricians, plumbers, bankers. The 2021 was a difficult year on everyone, and so I'm hoping with everything nationally and stuff that we get back a little bit to normal, a little more normalcy with everything from COVID down the line. But but I wouldn't look for anything major in our market. I'd like to know. I'd like to think that I could talk to you 12 months from now and see how correct I was. But
Hmm.
I think you're going to start seeing that upward trend start to stabilize a bit. If not, I don't know that I would say it'll go down, but I don't think you're going to see it. I don't think I can't imagine that it will continue to go up like it has. I don't know I don't know what we'll do. I really don't.
Well, we'll definitely see what happens. 2022 is coming up very quickly. So, Jeff, I want to thank you for coming on here and sharing your time. I really appreciate it. You offer some great insight and perspective as to what's going on with the market here.
Yeah, thank you, Josue. We've always had good discussions, and none of us know the answers, but I think that what some people might find interesting is some of these things, like I talked about, is some of these trends that seem to be going in a different direction. And instead of a 45-degree angle on sales and pending sales, and um, that we're starting to see some of those start to plateau a bit. So I guess we'll all see where it goes from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Time will tell as it does with many things. So, want to thank Jeff again. Appreciate everyone tuning in. As always, if you have any thoughts, you can head to neighbor.montrosepress.com, and that's spelled NABUR. You can share your thoughts there, share some posts, or tune into this conversation that I just had with Jeff. If you have any thoughts, or if you have any personal experiences with trying to find a home in the market, some frustrations or some revelations, you could definitely share them on neighbor.montrosepress.com. Wanted to thank Delta Montrose Electric Association again for their help with this and their contributions to our efforts here with MoTown Knows. And in 2 weeks, tune in again. We'll have part two of this series. There's a lot to cover with housing here. So that's why we're going to do a part two and eventually a part three that we have planned. So it's great tuning in with everyone here with MoTown Knows. We're having a lot of fun with it. So thanks again, and hope you have a great weekend.